The fall of 1986 turned out to be a really big year for me. Big time of that year for me. I was 12 years old. Neil was 10. And our parents were putting us on our first flight to visit our older brother, who was in the Navy at the time, down in Bayonne, New Jersey. We were going to go hang out with him for Thanksgiving. Like I said, this is our first time on an airplane, and Neil and I were doing it alone. So, get to the airport. We all walk in, because that's what you could do back in the day. We get on the plane. I remember looking out the window, and we could see our parents and our sisters up there at the gate, waving goodbye. Neil and I hit the air. I remember seeing New York City out the window as we were descending into Jersey, which was crazy. I remember our brother Rod coming to get us, and we were driving to the naval base where he was obviously living, stationed. I remember seeing the Statue of Liberty off in the distance. We get to the naval base, and Rod's introducing us to people. You know, of course, we're his little brothers. You know, he's psyched to have us there. And we got to Rod's room. Now, we'll have to mention, Rod is a crazy audiophile, record collector, just lover of music. Rod's way into his stereo equipment for as long as I can remember. Even more so now, but when he was in the Navy, he had his crazy Macintosh stereo system there. And I just remember walking into his room, and he had gotten some bunk beds for Neil and I to crash on, put in there. And I remember one of the speakers was it wasn't a large room. It's a naval base. And the stereo equipment was substantial. But I remember the speakers being really close to the bunk beds that Neil and I were crashing on. Walked into the room, had our bags again situated, and like many of you would know or remember, there was always records on the floor, kind of leaned up against the wall on a little angle. Stuff that you were most recently been listening to or preparing to listen to. Just kind of looking around, and man, it was the first thing that just caught my eye. Never seen anything like it before. And I remember saying, Rod, I want to hear that. Let's put that on. I need to hear it. All right. Rod goes through his ritual of cleaning the record, putting it on, making sure everything's cool. Throws the record on, drops the needle. And what happened then completely rocked my world, changed my life, and changed Neil's life, because I'll get to that in a sec. The album that I saw on the floor there, Jimi Hendrix, Axis Bold as Love. if you know the album, and especially the album cover, you could probably understand why it caught my eye. It's a striking album cover. I didn't know who Jimi Hendrix was. I didn't know what I was listening to was even music. It literally blew my mind. Listened, I was just transfixed. I was in a trance. I could feel the music moving through my body, and it was like being on a magic carpet ride or something. Just out of body experience times 100, 1,000, 1,000,000. I don't remember how many days we were there, but I know for a fact that that album got played a lot over the course of the days we were there. And in that time, I realized I wanted to play guitar. And I also realized that I wouldn't say I made the decision to be a recording engineer, because I wasn't exactly sure of that path yet. But I knew I wanted to figure out how those sounds were being made and put on a record. Now, yeah, I grew up listening to a lot of jazz, and I knew a lot of jazz musicians from the records that, we would listen to as kids. I knew what guitar was. I knew who Wes Montgomery was. I knew who Joe Pass was. I knew who George Benson was. I knew who Mel Brown was. I knew what guitar was. I never had any desire to play guitar. I never even heard guitar in that fashion. But that rocked my world. Boom, I was done. We got home from that trip, and it was Jimi Hendrix nonstop, day and night, for years. And I say that it changed Neil's life because we shared a bedroom. And man, he would get on me about me playing Hendrix all the time. But it's cool, I was doing my thing. I was just rocked. I eventually, soon after, I picked up a guitar. The first guitar was actually borrowed from our friend Melvin Huffnagel. It was an acoustic guitar, and I had picked up like a Guitar Player magazine that Hendrix was featured on. And I remember opening up the book and opening up the magazine, and I read that thing from cover to cover. That was worn out. But I remember the tabs in the back I can't remember what song it was. Maybe it was a few Hendrix songs, whatever. And I just remember I picked up the guitar. I'd never played guitar before. I'd always been playing drums. Picked up the guitar, looked at the tab. I said, all right. First chord I hit was over with. I was in. I was like, I can do this. Great. And I just played and played. Finally got an electric guitar. Of course, I wanted a Fender Strat. And of course, my parents were like, you are crazy. We are not getting you a Strat for your first guitar. It's all good. My first guitar, though, was the best. The first guitar is always the best guitar. You know this. My first guitar was a black Cort Strat. It was like a Strat body, Strat copy Cort. And of course, it had the whammy bar, the tremolo bar. It had to have that. It had a little amp, and I cranked that thing up as loud as it could go. And I just play all. I drove everyone crazy. Eventually, I got into recording, and all I wanted to do was try and make Hendrix albums. Try to that sound, that feel that I got when I first heard that album at Rod's Place. Completely changed my life. Changed the trajectory of my life without a doubt. Without a doubt. I don't listen to Hendrix as much as I used to. I still have all my records, which I have many, because I went on a crazy buying spree back in the day. I wanted every Hendrix album that I could find. A huge part of my life, without a doubt. And what it makes me realize now, or the thought that comes to mind, I speak a lot about the universe and it, or our place in the universe, and the paths that the universe will put us on. Well, sometimes the universe will give you a little gentle nudge. Here you go. This is the path. Other times, the universe will hit you with a sledgehammer. Bam! That's where you're going. Get on it. Don't look back. Well, that experience at Rod's Place in Bayonne, New Jersey in 1986, right before Thanksgiving, was nothing short of a sledgehammer, followed by a wrecking ball, followed by a train, and then, I guess, a spaceship. So I was gone. On my path. And this is where I am today because of that. So Rod, I'm telling you, man, thank you so much for putting that record on for me. He could have said, no, let's listen to this or whatever, but loving brother. So, all right, put it on. And the rest was history. All right.